What's up, Facebook community? I am so excited to be on here tonight. Having a little fireside chat. I'm in Park City, Utah, and tonight you are going to have the privilege of chatting with a world-renowned distance coach. I'm wearing this just for him. I ran at Florida State University and he coached there, but Trent Sanderson is an Olympic level coach, a former varsity athlete as well, and we've been talking a lot about biohacking. So I see Trent on here. Let me bring him on the live video. Hey Tracy, what's going on, guys? I haven't done a Facebook Live in a long time, but we are ramping up because this project, Biohacking Global, is really coming to fruition. So we just had a biohacking conference in Utah. If you guys were here in Utah for that biohacking conference, drop a 1 below. If you wish you were, drop a 2. But let us know where you're tuning in from, and if you're watching the live, let us know. If you're watching the replay, also share where you're tuning in from. So I'm gonna bring Trent on here in a second and formally introduce him. You guys are not gonna wanna miss this. He is an incredible individual, a dear friend of mine, and an amazing athlete. So hey Todd, hey Mary Stewart, thanks for sharing your Friday night with me. I'm in sweats and a comfy sweater, representing my Knowles, so tomahawk that chomp, no offense skaters. Hey Sue, but Trent Sanderson hails from Colorado. He's an incredible coach, Olympic level, and a former varsity athlete. In 2007, he started Team Prep USA, and this coaching practice has grown to be one of the most elite and prestigious coaching practices in the world. Trent was an athletic director and distance coach. He was the head of women's cross country in Maryland at the University of Maryland. He was also the assistant coach at FSU, where I ran track. And Trent's an amazing individual, so we've invited him on here, and he's gonna share some nuggets on really consistency and how that lends to success and really what it takes to be number one. We talked a lot about resilience today, and so wanted him to share that with you. We're all about helping biohack your body, mind, and soul, and helping you achieve a desired outcome. So let me go find Trent and continue to introduce him on here. Let's bring him on the camera. So we're bringing him on now. He was a distance runner in high school, and hey, you are on here.
Hey.
So good to have you on, Trent. Thanks for sharing your Friday evening. I know your phone is blowing up as you have the state championships happening tomorrow in, I believe, Texas. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of state meets, but there is one going on tomorrow in Texas for sure.
Awesome, and you have some incredible athletes racing. So we're not going to keep you, but guys, I do want to let you know that Trent, before we dive into hacking the secrets of success when it comes to cultivating a champion mindset on the running level as well as in life, Trent's now in his 17th year. He's coached 2 Olympians, 1 Olympic medalist, 2 Gatorade cross-country national runners of the year, 13 national individual track and cross-country champions, 13 individual world and junior team qualifiers, 2 Rhodes Scholars, 30 Foot Locker champions, and 32 high school collegiate athletes who have maintained scholarships around the world. So the list goes on, but he's coached All-Americans, he's coached Olympians, and produced some of the fastest runners across the country and around the world. So Trent, I'm so excited to have you on here, and you know, as a dear friend and former Knoll, well, once a Knoll, always a Knoll, right?
Yeah.
But I'm excited to have you on here. We've been talking a lot about hacking your biology to achieve a desired outcome when it comes to the body, the mind, and the soul. And you know, in our discussions over the past several years, and especially over the past several weeks, and then kind of in dialoguing this afternoon, we're diving into resiliency and some of the secrets that you've seen to success when it comes to, you know, how do you get to number one and how do you stay at number one? So let's kind of dive into it.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for the introduction. You know, I always say when I talk about my bio, you know, I've been very fortunate to work with the kids at a younger age. So Miss Emma Coburn, world champion, bronze medalist, her husband's coaching her. You know, I got a chance to help her at a younger age in high school. And so that's where I played that role with her there. Obviously, she went off to college and made a big impact there. And her husband now, Joe, which was a former client of mine that moved here, is her coach now and is doing an amazing job. And I've been very fortunate over the years to take kids at a young age, sometimes after they've had a lot of success, and trying to teach them how to deal with that success. And I know our title tonight we talked about is details, consistency, and creating an ambition for life. And I honestly think that attention to detail makes such an impact. And how do you do that, right? And I am very fortunate to get very driven type A kids. And I always joke about it because I'm a dyslexic C student. I always joke. And what I try to do is try to find an A student that's very driven and teach them how to have consistency, have details, which they typically have, but then teach them how to fail, how to have adversity in their life. And I think that that can make a difference in them being a national type runner or a mediocre type runner. So what we do is we have training that we send out to them, but more importantly is we're teaching them how to go to uncomfortable places and make it comfortable. So I honestly think, like tomorrow, you had talked a little bit about Texas, but I think tomorrow in the state meets in Texas, which is one of our most competitive states, it's going to be nothing more than a chess match. And what we want to do is we want to teach them how the people that are willing to go to places that are intolerable and hang around and learn to tolerate that are. So when kids come on board to us, what we do is we have certain things throughout a week consistently that teach them how to go to places that are intolerable. And over the years, we've been fortunate to have the Bree Oakleys and the Shelby Hayeses and the Daniel Roberts and the Matt Queens and the Dana Boyles and even the Emma. You know, Emma did not soar as much in high school. But one of the things we'll find is a belief level is very important to create at that age. Someone that believes in you. You know, back in the day, the John Woodens, the Bobby Knights, that coaching philosophy was really successful. Now you'll find that that military approach is not quite as successful. So what we're trying to do is get into their heads and make a belief level in them, because when I first started coaching, I was very fortunate to move up the ladder pretty quick. So I was a head coach at the University of Maryland for the men and women's cross-country distance team. And all the kids that I would recruit would be typically from poor or people that had a lot of adversity in their life, because I thought that that's what made someone successful. And I honestly felt like that was me being a little bit immature, because, you know, I work with kids that have done everything society told them to do in hopes to have the good life. And then in their mind, you know, if they do very well, they can trade their success for time, right? If you make money, you can trade money for time, because time is our most rarest commodity. And we talk about that in details at our camp. But when I worked with these kids, I thought the kids that went to Stanford, the kids that did not have student loans, the kids where the parents basically could buy them their life, would not be successful. And what I've learned is, and it's kind of the opposite now with teen prep, is teen prep is kind of that that group where you walk into it and then you surround yourself with other successful people. Just like when people grow up in very influential areas. It's not a bad comment, it's a true comment, but if you look at some of the best distance programs around the nation, they come from influential areas. Woodlands of Texas, Saratoga, New York, Tampa, Meade High School. And you'll find that if they come from very well-to-do families, I shouldn't say well-to-do, but families that have created momentum in life, realize that they get what they expect in life, then that persona kind of goes over to the kids. But what also can happen, Jess, is it could be a sense of entitlement. So you have to be careful there, because if they think that they just expect it, then that won't happen. But what I have found, though, is kids that go to Stanford, if you have good grades, you should go to Stanford. Why not? Go to a school that will put you in a position where you won't necessarily feel entitled, but will feel empowered. So then you can go into a job opportunity and say, why not me, right? So that's kind of a little bit of a nutshell there. But, you know, what we do pretty well is every day on a weekly basis, we go to places that are intolerable and teach them how to tolerate things. So.
You know, I love that you touched on that, because, you know, the title of the book and really the focus point is going from broken to bringing it. And, you know, you can skirt through your life and it can be, you know, easy and good, and nothing's difficult, nothing's hard. You never hit highs and lows. You just kind of succeed or plateau. And in order to go from, you know, just maintaining success or staying where you're at, where you're comfortable, you hit these peaks and valleys. And when you hit those valleys, it catapults you up if you allow that mindset in. So talk to us a little bit more about what you call failing forward in life and in living.
Failing forward. Yeah. So every week on a weekly basis, we take them to a place where they kind of fail. And then when we have someone come in that's quite talented, what we try to do on purpose, because I have an incredible staff that work with Team Prep. And what we do is we take them to places that make them vulnerable. And what happens is a type A driven kid does not like to be in a vulnerable spot. And that's also why they don't succeed. You hear it all the time. If you don't fail, you won't succeed. I mean, there was one of the Nike commercial by Michael Jordan. He talked about, I failed this many times, therefore I succeeded. And there's a ring of truth to that, because when I grew up as a dyslexic C student, you know, if I failed, I just waited around to collect everyone's crumbs, right? And typically an A student wouldn't do that. They'll just walk away and go to somewhere else. And if you'll look at some of the best doctors and lawyers and, you know, astronauts, and you'll see so many that are doing so well in their profession. And a lot of those people, you'll find that they've had a tough road. I honestly think that life is so fair. If you're really willing to be put in the time, the details, the consistency, then you're going to get where you need to go. So when a client signs up with us, they automatically put wall calendars up on their wall, and they're basically 12 weeks. And I tell them just to mark those days off. Just like when you were younger, there was a calendar called the Advent calendar, and your goal was to wake up every morning and open it up and mark the X off or get the little candy out of it. But once you create so many X's, you're going to create momentum. And one of the things I find that the difference between success and unsuccessful people is they think that successful people just love to do the stuff. And what I do, and excuse my French a little bit here, but I tell all of our kids that successful people just plow through the shit better than unsuccessful people, because we all have it. It's just they just deal with it better and they just go through it. And that's what you want, you know, everyone to kind of understand, that you're going to have it. And then another thing that we try to really get across to our clients and our campers is when you feel weak inside, or I should revert that, when it's very intolerable and difficult, successful people realize that everyone else must be feeling the same way or worse, right? But unsuccessful people think they're the only ones feeling weak. And you've got to change that mindset. I mean, you would have brain synapses in your brains that you have to change that, because if that firing is going to keep happening, it's going to keep happening. And, you know, I honestly think if I answered what you were saying, basically just to really understand that adversity, if you have enough failure in your life, you'll be successful. And when I moved to Aspen, Colorado years ago, 1997, I think, I learned how to snowboard. And I kind of took what I've been dishing out, right? I said, okay, right out of college, and I said, you know, I'm going to fall down 100 times. So I look forward to failing. Therefore, I wasn't so worried about it, because as we get older and older, Jess, believe it or not, from where you are at now to 4 years ago, you have a perspective enough to where it could actually work against you. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to go down that. If I remember right, you had an injury just a while back, and it holds you back from certain things because you've been slapped on the wrist. And, you know, you said earlier about all these accolades, and, you know, I don't want to take credit for all that, because all I did was help them at the start when they were younger. And I honestly learned when I was at the University of Maryland, and I would recruit all these kids, and they would come in and they would say, well, I did this and I did this. And I said, you know what? I want to step back a little further. I want to go back before, you know, they were so, you know, kind of beaten and silly a little bit to where they feel like they can't succeed. And I honestly think that you've got to get out of that mindset, because, you know, if you really can pay attention to detail, if you can figure out a way to trick yourself to create more consistency in your life, whether that be a calendar, and then creating momentum. You know, everyone wants to excel at something in their life. I always say that the girl with blue hair, the guy with the nose earring, I mean, all they want to do is be unique. They want to fit in. And a lot of our kids are known as the runner in their school. The negative is, as they start to become known as the runner and they're getting older, that comes with expectations. And sometimes parents and sometimes just society in general say, oh, they were burned out. They've been doing it too long. And all I can tell you is I beg to differ on that, because I've seen kids start out younger and do very well.
Yeah.
And I think what happens is when they get labeled, if they don't really pay attention to the process and just focus on the destination, then they will burn out or they will not succeed. Because, see, what I want to teach our kids to do tomorrow, whether that be in Illinois or Texas, is I want them to focus on the process, the controllables. What can I control tomorrow? You know, I tell all of our kids, we just had a girl call me and said, you know, my coach is going to make me listen to all this motivational stuff tonight. And I always say, getting so motivated out of your skin tonight, what is that going to help for 9 o'clock in the morning tomorrow? It's not even going to help at 7 in the morning tomorrow, right? So there's a place where you turn on your performer mode. And I say that not only from athletics, but in life. You know what I mean? Like, you've got to learn how to turn it on and you got to learn how to turn it off. And the people that know me, that are my personal friends, know how I can turn it off pretty well. You even know that. You can just shut off. And you need to be able to have that balance. I think if you really want to be high-end successful at certain things in your life, you've got to be able to have a balance where you're defined at other things. Because if you're only doing that, you are going to fail. So you're going to feel like a failure in that mindset.
Right. And I love how running in my life personally, and just from what you've shared with us today, how just cultivating that mindset, how running really parallels to life. And, you know, you're going to have peaks and valleys, and it's all about, you know, what really stood out to me from our conversation and from what you've just stated is how resiliency really pans out, not only in running and athletics, in any sport really, but in life. And the more you can tolerate and keep pushing through, because life is going to knock you down. You know, you're not always going to be on top in athletics, but how do the people that get on top stay on top? Like we were talking about some different sports teams and individuals, players that consistently stay up top. And what does it take to get up there, but not only to get up there, but to stay up there? And, you know, consistency is so key, the details, and then understanding, you know, when you hit that phase, what you can tolerate, finding that balance, and really that that fine science, that chemical reaction, so to speak, in running and athletics and life, that allow you to get hit so much, but understand how much you can tolerate and move through that, because everybody around you is getting knocked down all the time. You're not the only one. So living in that mindset of abundance versus scarcity is so key. So how have you utilized that in terms of the details, consistency, to lead to that success, to allow your athletes to not only get there and achieve that, but you work with a very small knit group, but you've had people come in and out, and that small knit group is there for a reason, and they stay there for a reason. So what do you think about it?
We're you know, kids come into our program only for 4 months sometimes, but most of them always stay. And, you know, another good example, which was just a year and a half ago, was Bree Oakley. And, you know, Bree Oakley is going to do some amazing things in college. She's at a great program up there. They're going to do a great job. One of the things that we did really well with her was teaching her how to go to those vulnerable places. But what you're kind of asking was, you always hear of P90X, muscle confusion, which is stuff that works extremely well, helps people lose weight, tones up people when they get older. Our program, and I think there's something in life works really well too, is showing a consistency throughout the week where your body accepts it. Because what we want to do in running, you want to create a cardiovascular system, correct? So we can do that. You know, you run a lot, you run on tired legs, then your VO2 max rises, so therefore your body utilizes oxygen more effectively. So then you can run more in aerobic state at a faster pace before you go into an anaerobic state where you got booty lock and you're shutting down, right? So we can do that. But what I said, like I said before, is going back to how do we take people to a place on a consistent level to where they can accept it. It's like in the Bible, right? Raising the calf, and you just keep raising it, and then eventually it's a cow, right? And it's true. There's a mindset to that, and it works tremendously because your body accepts that as a process. And that alone creates the momentum back to the kid going, wow, I'm doing this now, and I couldn't even do this then. It's kind of like you probably have all seen the YouTube video where it's a military corporate colonel maybe, and he's talked about make your bed. And just wake up in the morning, make your bed. And there's something to be said about that, because when you wake up in the morning and you make your bed, it just starts making you feel a little more empowered, right? And what we do in the morning is if some of our kids get up and do a run, so then when they're sitting in school and people are complaining about being there, they're thinking, you know what, I've already ran, showered, stride out, stretched. That alone starts making them feel above the rest. So let's go back to what we said earlier. If you do have good grades, you should surround yourself with your peers. So go to Harvard, go to Stanford. And when you go there, don't ever feel entitled. Always remember you're only as good as the last job you were in or where you ever at before. But when you're there, know that, you know what? Life does come to the people that expect it. I ran into a CEO, one of our people, a part of our advisory board, and he's always been such a great mentor to me. And he had said on their job descriptions, it always says, do you feel lucky? And it's the simplest question, yes or no. And they mentioned about 8 times out of 10, if they check no, that application doesn't go any further. So it makes a lot of sense. So if you think about it, you go, and I told you I grew up poor too, but you go down to the local trailer park, and I guarantee you're going to hear a lot of people bitching and how life treated them wrong. And all I can tell you is life is fair, because the one that grows up with the least sometimes becomes the most successful. And sometimes the people that grow up with the most become unsuccessful too, right? So I honestly think what you should think about is, what do you really want in your life? And when you can figure out what you really want in your life, what I honestly think you should do as a big role, getting kids into some amazing universities and colleges. And I love what Middlebury's been doing. Middlebury, a lot of times if you get accepted, they'll say, look, we're going to accept you, but we're not going to accept you this fall. We'll accept you next spring or the next fall. But you said you wanted to be in film. We expect you to go out, go to Hollywood, go somewhere, get a job in the film industry, get back to us, let us know how it's going, and then you will be accepted at this point. If you don't follow that route, you will not be accepted. And I like that, because I look at my brother, I look at people in my life that started later in life, and how when they knew what they wanted, they accomplished so much. And Jess, I guarantee you'd say the same thing. You might even follow what I was at, is when you were in college, you were running because you wanted to be an Olympian. You were going to school because maybe you wanted to stay eligible. You wanted to be away from home, but you really didn't know exactly what you wanted to do, right? And I honestly think that when people are like that, they're not given their full ambition, you know? I remember when I saw you down at my boat, team prep boat on the East Coast, and I told you you're going to be successful because you're so freaking resilient. You're so consistent. I'm not sure what it is yet, but it's going to be something amazing. And then back to my third part of that topic was creating ambition in life. Is what I try to do is I try to find kids that come into the camp and they're just maybe not sure where they want to be, and we create a great atmosphere. So then they start seeing themselves in those roles, right? Because that's all we got to do is light the fire. And I will tell you, the people that you see, your kids, that you feel like they're not going to be successful, those are the ones typically are when they find someone that really believes in them. Because they haven't had life given to them. I mean, you hear it all the time. If you in high school, if you get voted most likely to succeed, it's like a death wish. And if anyone from Mississippi is watching this video, they'll know what I'm talking about. Because when you go out and you just feel like you keep running into a brick wall, you're going to make it in life. if you stay on track at some point. We had a kid out of Florida that literally was a 1750 5K guy, not a girl. And he wanted to run in college. We got him a lot better. Then he wanted to go to school. And we had some schools like Bucknell interested, but he didn't want to go there. Guess what? He wanted to go to CU. Okay. And at the time, CU, after Joe and Emma and Camille Logan, all parts of Team Prep, but just they were fabulous people and athletes. How the program just rose at CU Boulder under Wetmore and Heather, which are fabulous coaches, by the way. And he kept trying to make this team, just like the Rudy movie. Literally, his third year trying to make the team. Guess what? He kept getting better. He would run a Thanksgiving race outside of Boulder and win. If you run a race outside of Boulder and do well, you're pretty good, even if it's just a road race, right? Well, anyway, his dad called me up one day and said, "Look, I like the Kool-Aid you've been pouring my kid." Because they always say that parents, they say, you got the greatest Kool-Aid and it always seems to work. But, there's got to be a point where we got to draw the line. I'm a CEO of a hospital. I want my kid to be successful yet as well. My kid keeps chasing these dreams. I said, look here. I said, your kid has been chasing this dream for 3 years now. He keeps getting better. He's not going to make the team. He keeps hitting his head up against the wall, but he doesn't quit. How many people would want that? And, another good example, and maybe Chaz Salmon might hear this, but, this is a guy that was at Glenwood Springs High School, one of my first clients. Kid did so amazing. And then one day his dad, which was a doctor as well, not a CEO, but a doctor, and said, you know what, my kid never made one state, never made the travel team in college. So I'm just letting you know. And I said, well, let's rethink this. Your kid basically moved up, made it to state finally, finished second at state, then got on Duke University's track team, never made the traveling team, but they thought so highly of him, they made him the captain the last 2 years at Duke University. Okay. Then he became a Rhodes Scholar and studied in Oxford, England. And then he's been over in Kenya working on stuff to try to make this world a better place. And he said, well, if you put it this way, I said, do you know how many national NCAA champions would probably think that that was a more successful route than what they got? They won a national title. Then all of a sudden, maybe they're just working at a regular job. So the whole point of it is finding momentum in yourself. Every time I sit with a kid, I sit there and I do a talk at camp. I was the first kid to go to college to a regular undergraduate program in my family, right? So I felt really good about that. And I'm telling them this whole story about being a C student and how I'm excited about life and infectious about life and how I'm so excited to be able to sit in a new car. And then I'd see tears coming down on the girls' and boys' faces because I get a hand raised and said, well, my dad went to Carnegie Mellon and my mom went to Yale. My dad went to school in London and my mom went to the school, of wherever, some top school. And what they're saying is if I don't get into Yale, if I don't go into, trying to think one of the ones that every kid wants to go into, Brown, then I won't succeed. And I tell them that it's your life. You're ultimately responsible for your life, and it's about to start. And sometimes it takes them a while to get through that. And all I can tell you from the people listening is everything the parents have done up to this point until they were 12, it's instilled in them. If you force it down their throat, they're going to rebel. So let them live a little bit. Let them take a little bit of mistakes. Know that the kid at the school with the blue hair, they're just trying to fit in. They're trying to be wanted,
100%. Holy cow. Amazing nuggets that you're dropping here, Trent. And I so appreciate you really diving into not only the athlete aspect, but the parental aspect. And then as kids move through, whether you're coaching, whether you're a parent, whether you're an athlete, whether you're a student athlete tuning in, I'm so grateful for my parents. I was never spoon fed, but I was held to a standard where my parents always surrounded us with amazing people that made us want to be better and made us want to succeed. And all my siblings are exceptional, and but we had to work for it. And I think it's so true when you're put in a position where you have to get a little bit uncomfortable in life, it helps you establish that resiliency. So stretch yourself outside your comfort zone. And if you've taken anything from Trent today, really cultivating that mindset, not only in athletics, but in life, and challenging yourself on a day-to-day basis to surround yourself with better people, to stay positive, and to push through those tough times, because like you said, success is on the other side. No matter where you're at, whether you come from an affluent family or not, you have the option. You have the opportunity to change your life and get laser focused, because nothing knocks the freight train off its path, right? So,
yeah, and everyone's going to fall off sometimes and just restart.
100%. You can always switch tracks. So you dropped some incredible nuggets here tonight, and I so appreciate you being on. Just an exceptional coach, a friend, a mentor, and
Thank you.
an incredible athlete. So last parting words, your legacy, which you're leaving a big one, and living at large. Any last minute words, a quote that you like, any tips that you just want to leave with our viewers before we wrap up?
Just know who you're surrounding yourself with every day. I moved to Aspen, Colorado a long time ago because I realized if I put myself around the people I want to be like, then you can choose and pick what you want to be. And as you keep going through life, you're going to figure out what makes you feel alive and be in that. And be kind to others, because karma's a bitch. Always be nice, always be helpful, and you'll be surprised. It'll just kind of fill your heart, it'll make a really great thing. And in life, if you can leave and make an impact on yourself being here, make your life make a difference. I mean, I think that's the most ultimate thing you can do in life. So
100%. Yeah. Why? So thanks so much for hopping on with us and spending some time with me and our viewers. You guys, drop us a comment below, show Trent some love, and follow Team Prep USA on their journey to success. So thanks so much for tuning in, Trent. Thanks so much for everybody else who tuned in live and shared your Friday evening with us. So have an awesome weekend, and we'll touch base with you soon. Bye for now.
Yes. Bye.
Bye.